Welcome back to Always Ageless with Valerie V. This is the show that celebrates life where you can live to its fullest at any age. So we want you to tune in every Monday where we dive into the latest technology, tools, and trends to make life more enjoyable, more fun, and certainly more comfortable. So whether you're 65 or 85, whether you're an adult going through the challenges of aging, or the adult child of aging parents or a caretaker, we are your resource and we are your go-to place. So thank you for joining us, and be sure to come back every Monday at 3 p.m. Yikes, it's the holiday season. But stay tuned because it's about turning your home into a holiday haven where comfort meets connection. Your holidays can be heavenly. Yes, the excitement of the holidays, gift giving, amazing food and meals, holiday sweaters and music and Christmas carols, and the kids and presents and Christmas trees, and getting together with family and friends. Aha. Well, yes, we're always excited and we look forward to the fun and the celebrations. And yes, to the shopping, even to the shopping. Yes, let's face it, we all love to shop. But then reality sets in. The parents or the grandparents or aging family members are coming to visit. Yes, and they're older. Well, will they spoil the fun? Will they be boring? Will they be picky? Will they just want to talk about the olden days? Well, today we're welcoming Beth Bedore, senior home coach and occupational therapist from the Nashville area. And we all know that they know how to have good celebrations and parties in Nashville for sure. So we're going to talk to Beth about her years of working with seniors and their families. And she's going to share with us her many tips for helping families to, number one, get along, have fun, and make their home a holiday haven. Welcome, Beth.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. And first of all, we all need to congratulate Beth because she's a newlywed. This will be her first holiday season as a new wife. So congratulations.
Thank you.
You are so welcome. So Beth, we live in our homes every day and we just take for granted the way they're laid out and the way the furniture is and the way things are set up. And we don't think too much of it, but we never think about how it appears or how it works for people when they come to visit. So we brought you on so you can help us out by seeing that extra perspective of what we need to do. First of all, the obvious, preparing our home. Beth, what are some of the practical ways that we can prepare our home, other than preparing our minds, preparing our homes for having our older parents or our family members come and visit us over the holidays?
Well, I think first of all, it depends on where your parents are and how they are able to get around in the house. How mobile are they? Do they need assistance? And to also look at cognitive abilities. The most important thing is to just have fun and enjoy being with them. But you know, when I do a home assessment, I start on the exterior of the home and I move in. So, first of all, are they able to get up and down the steps, or do you have steps to your home? And if not, there are some pretty easy solutions. There
Okay.
are rental ramps, or you could also purchase them like on Amazon. There's some that are less than $200.
Actually, I saw some that were like $75 or
Yeah.
something.
It really depends on how many steps you have, but
Sure. Yeah.
but there's always a way.
So we so they arrive. Okay, we know they're coming. And like you said, and that's really a good thought and a good place to start from is what are their needs, right? What are their current abilities and what are their needs? My mom's 105. She lives on her own and all she needs is a walker. But then there are other people that are more even maybe my age who are really need more care. So that's a good thing to think about. Is just where are they and where is our basis, right? Where are we coming from? So let's talk about once they arrive, because they've already maybe had to make it through their plane trip, right? And that's another issue if they flew or they drove. So how do they get into the house? All right. What things should we watch out for? And let's assume that everybody doesn't have Southern California weather and that some
Oh,
people
yeah.
might have snow or some people might have rain. So what
Yeah.
kind of issues are important that they should be thinking of or looking out for?
So a clear walk path, how are they gonna get in the home? Is there a garage accessible to them so that you can come out of the elements to get in? Or is it, that they're gonna come in through the front door, making sure if there's snow, we wanna have that cleared, but also taking into considerations when you have holiday lights.
Mm.
Sometimes those, extension cords are over the sidewalk, making sure that those are out of the way. And another thing to really think about is lighting, making sure that there's very good lighting. Again, ramps if needed. It could just be
Mhm.
that you need handrails to help get in, but just making sure that they have some way or a support of some kind to get up the steps. At the threshold of the door, you might want to have a chair there if they fatigue quickly. Um, while you're getting the door open or whatever, that would give them an opportunity to sit if they needed to before going into the house.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. And what about the four-letter word rugs?
Rugs.
Rugs.
So first of all, throw rugs are exactly what they say they are. They can throw you. You can trip on them, and so we always suggest, if possible, take those rugs up. If not, make sure that there's no loose corners or um, the room I'm in right now has a shag rug, which is pretty thick. That could be a trip hazard for sure. So you just want to be kind of aware of where the rugs are, how high they are, and that they're not loose if you are going to keep rugs on the floor. But if possible, just take those rugs up until your guests have left.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So how can you subtly prepare for them inside so that they don't feel like they're being set aside or like they're being treated like old people? Because you and I know in our work every day that no matter how old someone comes, they want to be respected, but they don't want to be treated like they're an old person. So
Right.
what kind of things can you do in the house to accommodate
So
their needs so they don't feel so singled out?
by planning ahead, you can plan where that person may sit, um, and what that looks like so that you're not rushing around and getting a chair and moving it, and maybe set up a couple rooms in the house. Typically you're in the living room, but oftentimes people move to the kitchen and it's like everybody congregates in the kitchen. You want to be sure that you're including that person as the people move to the kitchen, so maybe set up a place for them in the kitchen also. One thing is for their seating, if they have a hard time getting up and down, a nice hard surface bottom with armrest so that they can
Um,
easily get up and down
in and out of the chair,
themselves.
huh?
Yes, because sofas and plush seating is oftentimes really hard to get out of. And so a lot of times they would prefer what doesn't look to be comfortable because you can get up and down easier.
Right. I heard you tell a story about your grandma, I think. Was it your
Oh,
grandma? Tell us a story about your grandma who was in a room and how that was handled.
yeah. So my grandmother had vision issues. And when our family would all get together, I would notice a lot of times she was sitting by herself. Like, everybody made sure she got there. But once she was there, it's like the party happened around her because
Um,
she was just sitting in one space. And then people would leave the room and start looking around. Where's grandmommy? And grandmommy was still sitting in the other room. And so just making sure to include them in all the conversations and things, and that you're aware of the conversation and making sure, well, just include them, I guess.
yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm sure that yeah, you just get involved in your conversation and the holiday cheer, and you just think that everybody's
Yes,
going with you and
and,
kind
you
of
know,
forget
she
yourself.
was the one that always hosted when I
Oh,
was a child, and, she was the one rushing around the kitchen and making sure everything was perfect, and
sure,
so, you know, as she has aged and other people then took over, um, they were doing those things, but there were so many memories that she could have shared during
sure.
the time that they were rushing around and doing the things that you have to do in order to host a party. Um, I'm sure it brought back so many memories for her. And of course, you know, when our loved ones aren't with us anymore, we long for those stories.
We do, we do, we do. That's everyone always says to me, "Are you recording everything your mom tells you?" Because once she's gone, we won't have those memories anymore. So Beth, one of the things I noticed that I had never really thought about is I've heard people talk about lighting. So talk to us about the importance of lighting. And I'm sure this is not only for the holidays, but especially when someone is coming into your home. And again, one of those things that we don't think about. So talk to us about the importance of lighting when we have an older person in our home.
So as we age, it begins to
Yes.
get more and more difficult for us to see. And just think of when you go to a restaurant that has this great ambiance, but you have to look at the menu and you can't see it. And so you're pulling out your flashlight and getting your reading glasses. Well, as we age, it continues to get more difficult to see, and our balance isn't as good. So making sure that you have good lighting, especially in the hallways and the bathroom and throughout the house, is really important. And you know, in the Christmas holidays, one thing to take into consideration, we all love our Christmas tree and how beautiful
Yes,
it is.
we
And
do.
we will lower the lights for the
Yes,
Christmas trees.
yes,
So maybe make sure that everybody's seated. And, you know, if you're going to do an activity and you lower the lights, that there's not people up moving around, because you can have a fall or a stumble and not see something, but we
sure.
wanna enjoy the Christmas lights for sure.
We do, we do. And as far as lighting, Beth, one of the things that I became aware of because I manage vacation rental properties, so we have people that come on vacation and stay just for a few years here by Disneyland. And something that happened in one of our houses, it was really a wake-up call for me, is someone had gotten out of their older lady had gotten out of her bed at night to go to the bathroom, but took the wrong turn, and there weren't enough light switches in the right places, and she went down the stairs instead of going into the bathroom. And so I would just encourage people from that terrible lesson that we learned is to put, I mean, how could we avoid that? Could we put like little lights in the switches in the hallways?
Yes, like, you know, the little night lights, and some have motion sensors on them, but putting night lights around where they can be seen,
Uh-huh.
or there are some lights that you can get to go under the bed. Right now, I'm kinda
Oh,
going blank, but, you know, they go under the bed, and then when there's motion, they'll light up so that they can see, being sure that, in the toilet area, that it's well lit, because there's a lot of falls around the toilet.
is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And
That's
that's another thing to think of. If you have somebody come into your home, how are they gonna get into the bathroom? Like, especially, you know, a lot of times in our family rooms area, there's, a half bath. Is it big enough for them to get in, especially if they have a walker or a wheelchair? And if not, what's the alternative? And then if they, again, have a hard time getting up and down off of surfaces, there are things that you can purchase to go over your commode or around your commode, so that it can easily just be placed there and then removed, so that they have the armrest and are raised up higher. Um,
and
trying to
is there a
think.
special kind of toilet seat or something that we should think of for that? Would-
Well, the big thing is being very cautious of those that fit onto the toilet seat, because they're not stable. I
Oh,
like better than that. There's a thing called a 3-in-1 toilet where It has a bucket that goes under it. If you slide it over your toilet, you just take the bucket away. Um,
Okay.
and and it is freestanding, so it's very sturdy. And it that is a way where if there's concerns about them getting into the bathroom and they can't get into the bathroom, if you wanted to set up a private space in a bedroom, they could use that if needed.
Okay. And again, all of these things go back to what is their abilities. We may be talking about people that don't need this at all, but then we might have people who need this and maybe even a little bit more.
Right.
So talk to us about furniture and the types of furniture that work for these situations. If we have to, you talked about arranging furniture, and that's a good idea. But are there some pieces of furniture that are going to be easier for them, or that we need to maybe take out of a family room, put in a living room, or if we had to buy a piece of furniture, what would you recommend?
One thing is how well can you move around in the room? Do you have a sofa table that's in the way? Or,
Okay.
your coffee table? Are they gonna have to sidestep to get in? Those are some things
Um,
to take into consideration first, is just how much space is there in the room? The more, um what am I trying firm. The more firm a
uh-huh.
surface is, the better. The more soft it is, the harder it is to get out of. Um, Again, something that has arms on both sides is much easier. A sofa is really hard to get up and down from. Um, in the
That's an interesting
kitchen
point. Yeah.
in the kitchen, if you have armchairs, reserve that for your loved one. Is there anything else specific?
I don't know. I'm thinking like for people who would like to work in the kitchen, they want to be helpful.
Okay.
Is there anything you can do in a kitchen so they can come and participate?
You know, again, it depends on the person's ability, but you can always, if standing for long periods of time, fatigues them, a nice stool to sit on, or if there's something that they can do at the table in preparing, set it up where they can do it at the table while you may be moving around the kitchen.
Okay, that's a good idea. And kind of maybe give them their own little chef's center, right? Their little
That's
chef
right.
station with their knives and whatever it is they need and their little cutting board and right? Something like
Yes, just set it up for them. Other things, depending on how long the visit's gonna be, but if they're gonna be there for a few days, making sure that if it's coffee, that everything's kinda set out where they can easily make their own coffee, and coffee cups are within reach, everything's within reach. If there's certain pots and pans that they're gonna be using, you might wanna sit them out on the stove or just have them higher because, again, reaching down below and back up if there's mobility issues,
yeah. Mhm.
that can be a concern, and then wanna be sure that they're not gonna try to step on a stool or anything,
Yeah.
because everybody wants to be independent and not asking for a lot. But if you can just kind of think ahead on those things, it can make it much more pleasant for both you and your guest.
Yes, that's true. That's true. And just even listening to this and being aware of this, I'm sure a lot of our listeners and our viewers are saying, gosh, I just never thought about that. Right.
Mhm.
And I could have done that. Beth, we know that with communication, a lot of problems are solved. So we and you and I have probably been in families where, oh, your mom's coming and I have to put up with this, or your dad's this, or whatever, or how can we have them here because we've got, Susie's Christmas play is one night and their dance rehearsal is one night, and we were only given 2 tickets, so we don't have enough tickets for your mom and dad to go. So how do you suggest that families communicate ahead of these visits so that they can have these discussions and set expectations so there's no
Right.
hurt feelings when they arrive?
There's that brought 2 things to my mind. One is just being sure that as you're preparing, "Mom, I'm so glad that you're coming to see us, and I want everything to be perfect as possible," Tell me, what are some things that make it easier for you so I can go ahead and prepare. Last time you were at my house, was there anything that was really difficult for you or something that you see that I could change to make it a little easier? Um,
Oh,
and even talking to them about what it is that they've made changes in their own home or that they would like to change in their own home. It might give you some Christmas ideas too.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But just really having conversations about when you go out shopping, what is it like for you? Do you fatigue quickly or do you like to just go at it? Really thinking about what the activities are that you're going to be doing and talking about it, having open conversation, just honest conversation, and really saying, I want for us to have the best time together that we can. And in order to do that, I need to know how I can help.
Sure. And thinking about this, maybe even if we do have the dance concert and you only have 2 tickets and they can't go, maybe you can arrange for them to do something during that time. Maybe you can take them to a movie, drop them off, and after the dance concert or whatever event it is, like, whatever, school concert or whatever, then you can go back and pick them up. Or you can take them to dinner and leave them there and go back and pick them up later. Maybe that's ways that we can overcome that gap when we can't all be together.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts or suggestions for that?
Um, no, just thinking ahead of time for dinner. Where are you going? And what does that look like for mom? Is it hard to get in and out of a booth? Do we need a table rather than a booth?
Mhm.
Um, how easy is it to get there? Is there a long walk from the parking lot into the restaurant? All of those things when you're planning, take it into consideration, and I wanna stress, don't let it stress you out because the whole reason for the conversation is to figure out ways to make it easier.
And, a lot of times we think about going out to eat as being easier, but I know as I have, I have my dad was much older when he died and my mom's still alive and we go to restaurants, but then they can't hear, right? We get
Yeah.
at a table and they can't hear because of the surrounding noise, which may not be that bad, but for them it is, and to carry on a conversation. So don't you think it's important to keep that in mind when you
Oh,
decide where you want to go and how to be together?
definitely.
Because no fun for them if they're with us, but they can't really participate. We've talked about.
That's right.
Yeah. Do you have any suggestions for helping them plan their medical needs when they're on their way or as they plan their trip? Or anything special that we as family members need to know or keep in mind?
Well, I guess depending on where they're traveling from, definitely if you're driving long distances, to plan ahead and to plan stops, and to
Okay,
be able to get out and walk, and where are you going to stop, and what that kind of looks like. At the airport, of course, they have the people that will come and meet you at the plane with the wheelchairs, and um, it that is just wonderful how they have got that down to a science,
they
for
do.
how to help people.
And another thing that comes to mind is I totally lost my train. Oh, is have a plan, has asked them to I heard this somewhere, and see what you think about this. Have them write out the information that we would need to know for their medical situation.
Oh,
Who's
the
the
metal,
doctor,
yes.
what are their pills? So there should be some emergency. We know we see this bag full of pills, but we don't know what it means or what they
Yeah.
should be doing with it. So how would you suggest families handle that?
Well, it would be a great idea if they could send you that information prior to, so that you already have it and you know where it is. Because, just making that list and bringing it with you, we all get excited and then hustle and bustle, and then we may
We do.
get
We
until
do.
it's an emergency type situation.
Yeah.
But even if they could go ahead and get their pill, get a pill box and go ahead and have everything out and 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 a time on the times that they're supposed to take their medicines so that it would make it easier. Um,
Or even I'm thinking, what if someone forgets their medicine? They had a picture of their pill
uh,
bottle, They
Yeah.
call their doctor or their pharmacy and have them send the prescription to where they are?
Yes, that's a great idea
Can
because
they do
I've
that?
gotten away on vacation and forgotten medications before,
Um,
and it's not always easy, and it's usually pretty time consuming, but, knowing exactly what it is and how to get in touch with the doctor, that can be very helpful.
Beth, what are some, and then let's talk about the fun part of Christmas, which is the outings, going out to either look at neighborhoods or walk through the neighborhood or go to church or movies. What are some of the thoughtful activities or the outings that people can do that include all different generations? That the younger children, all the way to the elderly adults, that everybody can do together.
You know, some of my most fond memories with my grandmother at Christmas, my other grandmother at Christmas, was every year we would go out and just ride around and look at the Christmas lights and talk
Uh,
about the Christmas lights. So it was she, my mom, my sister, and I. And it was kind of like a family tradition that we did. And tonight, actually, I drove by a house and I took a video of it and I sent it to my daughter and said, "I'm looking forward to going to looking at Christmas lights with you." um,
Definitely.
because that's something that we have continued. So that's something that's very easy and you're not having to get in and out of the car. But then there may be some places along the way that you could stop and get out if you want to and take some pictures.
Yeah.
Um, let's see.
And
There's
don't a lot of cities also have maps, don't they, of where the best Christmas tree lights are
You
or
can
Christmas
usually
lights,
find those,
the
yeah.
best decorated houses. You can usually find them all
Yes.
in the city.
Yes, one year we did that too. It was a contest and you got to vote on which house was the
Oh,
best. It was throughout the whole city. And so, yeah, we went around to all the different houses
oh,
and
what a fun.
voted on which ones we thought were best.
That's fun. That's fun. But you were going to say something else.
Let's see. You know, there's so many different Christmas events that go on. Trying I'm trying to be more broad than just Nashville. Um,
Oh,
but but being sure, the big thing is, I think just being sure that it's things that that you do enjoy together,
uh-huh.
and looking at how accessible it is
Right,
prior to going.
right, right. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Um, so let's talk about how we can emotionally support each other. I think it's very important, and that you may be going through this, or maybe you're not, where we even now have blended families. So you have people that don't know each other just
Okay.
because a child didn't especially grow up with these adults, or these adults didn't especially grow up with these children, right? And so you're coming together at a holiday, and everyone comes from their own background and their own set of memories and their own desires. So how do you bring people together to um, help them do just that, come together and have a good holiday experience?
This year for my Thanksgiving, it is our first Thanksgiving as a married couple, and
Yes,
we have adult children. Um, we each do, and we all have different memories through the
of course.
years. And then my friend is coming to spend Thanksgiving with us, and she lost her mom just 2 months ago,
Oh,
and her son and her husband. And so I was thinking of doing a memory jar for everybody to have it at the table with little cards in it and
uh-huh.
just to, talk about, well, what my thoughts are for my family that I was thinking I would do is just tell them, okay, we all have different memories through the years, and it's important to cherish those, and that our loved ones that are no longer with us to remember them and keep their legacy alive. And so, take this jar and through the holiday season, when you have memories, write them down. And then who knows, at Christmas, you may want to pull those out and share them with others. But if you don't want to share it, it's something that it just, you may quickly have a memory, but go ahead, take that memory in because it's really important.
And I think too, so many, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but so many of us and our parents, and even in our age, in our household, people have come from different countries where their Christmas traditions are so very different. We have my husband is Dutch, and they have Santa Claus, and Santa Claus comes and does presents on December 5th, because you shouldn't give presents on Christmas because that's the birth of the baby Jesus, right? So that's a different set of traditions. And I think we think that those things aren't important, but it does give our children an opportunity to learn about this and to take in that experience and to realize that, they do have that background,
Mhm.
right, as a part of their family. How do you handle a blended family situation, Beth, where you're going to be together for the first time? Do you have anything special that you'll be doing, or did all of you know each other? Both families know each other ahead of time?
So our children, um, most all of them were together last Christmas, but other than that, they really haven't been. And
Mhm,
so we're hoping to just play games and have some things available to do here.
mhm.
Um, but mostly just visit. I don't wanna overplan, but of course, I've reached out to them all individually and said, "Okay, is there anything specific you want to eat? Is
Oh,
there
that's
anything
nice.
specific you wanna do?" Dan's oldest daughter's coming in Wednesday night before everybody, and so today I texted her and said, "Do you prefer to go out and do something on Wednesday night or just have a restful evening at home?" Just trying to really learn more about what it is that they want and they enjoy, and, for me, I want each one of them, all of our guests to feel welcome.
Sure, sure. And this applies to Thanksgiving as well as Christmas,
Yes.
and as well as New Year's. And then we have Super Bowl Sunday, and then we have lots of other holidays throughout the year. Are there any small gestures that you know of or you can think of, and this maybe goes to your occupational therapist side, that we can put in the room or near the bed or in the bathroom of the aging person to make it more comfortable for them? We talked about lights, maybe blankets or pens or notepads or
Al
anything like that that you're aware of?
Well, always blankets.
Me too. Me too.
Extra
I'm a
blankets.
blanket queen. Absolutely have to have blankets.
Yes, so we talked about lighting. Oh, well, one thing is to have a chair in the bedroom, um, because that's for different reasons. And again, communication is key, but getting dressed in the mornings is sometimes much easier from a chair. And again, a
It
good
is.
armchair is best. And then you may want to place like a kitchen chair if there's a long distance to the bathroom, kinda halfway between,
Okay.
especially for, you know, sometimes when people get up in the night, they may have dizziness, and because they're not in a familiar area, it could kinda throw things off a little bit, so just to have a place where they could sit if they needed to and
Good
regroup
idea.
and then go on.
Good idea. Good idea. And to tie their shoes, or maybe
Yeah.
there's kids running down the hall and they feel like they just need to get out of the way for a while, right? Let everybody go past them.
Yes.
That's a
Let's
great
see,
idea.
one thing I wanted to be sure and talk about was with the Christmas trees and the Christmas we talked about Christmas lights, but, a lot of times our space is pretty limited when we get Christmas trees and all the packages there. Be sure that those walkways are open and,
Oh,
that there's no trip hazards there. The cords, extension cords, of course, packages that might be in the way, um, and there's not a lot on the floor, that it's up, where it's not in the way.
okay. That's a good idea. And we've talked about traditions a little bit. So how are some ways that we can bring small children into, or not small always, but younger than teenagers maybe, into the family situation and introduce those traditions to them? Do you have any ideas? Do you have like any special family night or anything that you bring out scrapbooks or anything like that?
Oh, well, everybody loves photos. That's always a great idea.
Sure. Yes.
And our family had old movies from when my dad was growing up,
Oh
and
my
we got
God.
those put in well, we got them put on DVD. Now you would put them on something else, I guess,
Yes, I guess.
but it gives us an opportunity to go back and watch those things together. Or maybe there's something that the grandmother always made as far as a special dessert or something like that. So if it's possible that you make it together, that would be great. If not, just to have it there and then and talk about, oh, I remember this. My grandmother always made a caramel cake every Christmas that everybody just went crazy about, you know. So having that and talking about the memories of old Christmases. Memories are so important because that's how you pass things on from generation to generation. Um, but even crafts are sometimes good, you know, that everybody can participate in a craft or a
Mhm.
special game.
My mom has a aluminum baking pan, like about this high, kind of like a longer casserole pan that her great grandmother had. And she still has that. They made biscuits in it. They baked biscuits in it. And so
Mhm.
she still has that. And so yeah, those are fun to have. Um, and she still has her old recipes and she has her old Betty Crocker cookbook. Some of the things that come to mind also, Beth, that we're big on, I'm sure you are too, is games and puzzles. Are you a
Yes.
puzzle family?
I am not.
Oh,
However, I've got lots of friends that are.
is that right?
And it does bring everybody together. Now, that is something that we do when it snows. All of the neighbors get together and put together a puzzle
Oh,
because we're
that's
all
fun.
kind of stuck in the house.
You have
But yes,
snow in
and
Nashville?
yeah, well,
Not much, huh?
not much. We usually
Okay.
have at least one good one per year, but everything closes. Um, so nobody goes anywhere much because we have a lot of ice when it does snow, and so
Oh,
it's
gee.
just not safe to go out.
Another thing that's pretty big, I think, is cookie making and decorating cookies. Do you see that
Yes.
a lot? Because that's something that you can give to this older person, even the man. My dad always helped decorate the cookies, and you can give them their little kit and sit them down, and they don't have to stand up, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
That's always a good idea. And wrapping presents, of course. Anybody can help wrap presents.
That's right.
We always have enough presents to go around for everybody. What about scrapbooking and looking at old photos? Do you ask people to bring their scrapbooks or do you have them send them ahead of time and you look at them on computers? Is that more the way things go right now?
You know, most everybody has all their pictures on their phone, but the
That's
old
fine.
pictures we don't have on the phone. And so maybe taking photos of the older pictures so that you can share with everybody. Um, just this morning, now my mom will probably watch this and so she might learn what she's getting for Christmas. But my husband and I were watching television and there was a commercial for one of the frames where you can send photos to it.
Hmm.
And I was like, "Oh, maybe that's a good present for Nana and Papa." Um,
Yeah, that'd be
so
a great idea. So when you're out doing something or you're traveling, you could send her your pictures right away.
yes, and even if you wanted to make a time that's, memorable when you're setting it up, have everybody kinda sit around and send photos to it from your phone and talk about the photos, and then so you're sending something with her that has stories behind it, and then throughout the year, you continue to send pictures.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. And with our age tech um, tools that we have now, there's so many things that are being developed for us to be able to communicate and keep things current with our aging parents and aging adults. So that's a great idea. You don't happen to remember the name of it, do you? Apple has one also that's tied to Facebook that you can download.
Okay,
And
I
I
don't
think, and there's a
remember. I
program
can
that
see the packaging, but I can't remember the name.
there's a program that we're going to interview the owner, and it's called On Screen, and you can
Okay.
download into your television. So, Beth, let's talk about a few traditions or a few possibilities of what we can do if the older folks are unable to come to you. How can you include them in your holiday if they can't make the trip? What can you do to include them from afar, so to speak?
So, are you talking about like in a different city, different?
Sure, different city, different state, wherever they
It
are.
really depends on where they are. If you can go to them, that's great. And if they are in, a senior community, that there's always typically a dining room that you can reserve and bring the family in to them. Going out to restaurants is great. But if you can't have them physically with you, this digital world makes it where you can have them at least to have a visit and have them be present with you. You could open presents and have them on the screen. Um, there's so many things that you could do, I guess, if
Yeah, and now you can schedule Zoom calls, right?
yes,
And I saw an idea where you can actually send them their dinner, of course, have their dinner delivered to them.
that would be
You
nice.
can all eat together. And I saw one family, Beth, where they all prayed together, right? With their Thanksgiving and their Christmas dinner. They all started their dinner together and I'm going to cry, and they ate together, although
That's
they were in
that's
different
very
cities.
nice.
And I
And
thought,
that's for all ages.
yes,
We have people that live in other countries that aren't
sure,
able to come home for Christmas, and wouldn't
sure.
that be wonderful to
Yeah,
be able
wouldn't
to
that be
do
nice?
that?
Yeah, and send them some part of your meal or some meal that's close to what you're going to have. So then you can all share together.
I
I
love
thought
that.
that was a nice idea. Um, Technology, we've talked about technology. That's such an important thing now, and it's changed the world. And it's interesting that a lot of our aging parents and aging adults are technology adept, right? They know how to
Oh,
do
yeah.
things. Some of them are as good or better than we are. But then there's other cases where there aren't. So it seems to me it would be fun if the younger kids, the teenage ones, would take a holiday time and actually teach the aging parent how to do something, how to manage their phone or send pictures or send text messages or something, right? Be a
Yes,
good idea.
or even access social media so that they can see more things. I know my daughters, um, have Facebook for only one reason, and that's for their grandparents.
Oh,
Um, that's other than that, they're on all the other social medias, but
sure.
they post things on Facebook specifically so that I see it and their grandparents see it.
Yeah. Beth, do you have any stories you can share with us about a family you've worked with or you've helped or you've seen and how their holidays have been impacted by some of these things we talked about today?
Um, well, when I worked in rehab, we had families that had to be very creative because their loved one had had an injury or an illness that landed them in the hospital. And I worked in skilled nursing. And so it was stressful for the families and for that person. And sometimes you would see a lot of sadness around the holidays because they were alone. And so all of these things that you suggested, like, how wonderful would it be that to have the videos, but just to go and spend time with them wherever they are. If you can be with them in person, if not, find ways to be with them in other ways. Um, so, I mean, you asked. So many times I saw where people could not go home for the holidays. Um, But other times, I would see families come and get them and, they would take them out. A lot of times it would just be to a restaurant, and that may be what the option is for you. If the home is just not set up for that person to come, be sure not to just not do it. Find a way. Go to a restaurant. Go somewhere. There may be community centers that you could have a family party. um, the big thing is just spending as much time with your loved one in whatever way that you can.
And do you have are your parents still with you? Your both of your parents?
I'm very fortunate, yes.
Yes, you are. You are very fortunate, as am I. And so how about are they in communities in assisted living or
No, they live independently. My mother, has a lung problem, and she has a really hard time breathing. And
oh,
so, she fatigues very quickly, and this year's really been hard on her.
oh,
Um, and so she has always hosted our family Christmas, the extended family Christmas. And so this year, the past few years, every time it's, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And so we're all having to take on a lot more, so that she doesn't have to do the work and can enjoy it and us still be able to do it at her home. But we know that that time is limited. There's not going to be, it's not going to be that way forever.
well, unfortunately, we all have to face that reality.
That's
Some of
right.
us were luckier than others. Beth, what first inspired you to be in this line of work, to be an occupational therapist, first of all, and then to go into where we are? We met together being senior home coach.
Okay. Well, it's kind of a long story how I got to be an OT, but my dad was in administration for skilled nursing my entire life. And right out of high school, I went and got my CNA, certified nursing assistant,
Uh-huh.
license. And so I worked as a CNA for a while. And then I was a physical therapy tech. And in the area that I lived in, there were no occupational therapists. And I kept hearing about it and I wanted to know more. So I drove an hour to get in my volunteer hours to apply to occupational therapy school. So that's kind of how I got started there. And then as far as my story with how I got to where I am now, I've practiced as an occupational therapist for almost 30 years now,
Oh my.
and I've worked in almost every area from skilled nursing primarily, home health, acute care, pediatrics, school system. And so, what I found throughout all the years in different ways is our patients would work really hard while they were inpatient or even when we were doing home health care with them. They
Uh-huh.
would work really hard to get better and they would get so much better, but oftentimes their homes weren't set up for them. And so we would see them go home to a home that wasn't set up for them, and oftentimes they'd come back to us from a fall or an injury
Oh,
or, malnutrition, because if you can't
oh,
get around in your kitchen and you can't do the things that you need to do for yourself, then you're gonna have a decline. And so, fast forward, I it was COVID and I was at home and I decided to get my real estate license. And what I didn't know is what was in store for me, because right away I got these older clients that they were choosing homes that I knew would not meet their needs in the
oh,
future. And
oh,
so I went on a search to find other people that might be doing things to add um, home modifications and making the home accessible with real estate. And so um, I have combined my occupational therapy skills and real estate so that I can help seniors to be able to stay in the home of their choice as long as possible, but also to be able to follow them through that journey.
that's amazing. And that's so important because we think that we hear every day, well, there's so many people that are turning 11,000 people a day, they're turning 65. Um, and so we need to go out because they all must be wanting to move. And I saw on a Facebook post yesterday in a large Facebook group that someone said, why don't these people want to move? And there were all kinds of answers, but the real answer is, why should we? We don't want to. We have a home we love. We've been in it a long time. It's our home, and we don't want to move. And
Mhm.
and yet there is the challenge of how do you make it up and down the stairs, and how do you overcome those challenges? And that's
You know, and
obviously
planning ahead can help to prevent that one fall that starts the trickling effect of not being able to be independent. And so making the adjustments to your home, before you need them is always best because otherwise you're working in crisis mode. And that's my entire, career as an occupational therapist. I was working with people in crisis mode. So if I can help to prevent something and help them to plan ahead, um, that's gold to me.
And what one or two tips would you give to people that are saying, well, this sounds good, Beth, but really, what are those things? What are the one or two things we could be doing, the most important things to
The
get ready in
most
it?
when you say the most important things, my mind goes to the simplest things because a lot of times there could be simple adjustments,
Really?
taking up throw rugs, making sure there's ample lighting,
Uh,
um, setting up your kitchen for success. So we talked about that stool, we talked about moving things, but when you're looking at your kitchen, not just going to visit somebody, what is it that you use the most and put it in a place where you can easily access it? Um, and being sure that you can get around in your kitchen. There's no clutter. Clutter is a high, that puts a high risk for falls. Um,
yeah, and those are really good points because, I do have a elderly mom, and for she has a pantry that she puts her plastic containers down at the bottom, but she can't reach them. And so we're always over there making sure we go over there at night, making sure that what she's going to need for the next week, she's got enough paper towels and napkins that those are out already, so she doesn't have to go and search for them. And those are really, that's
Yes.
good points.
And for the children of aging parents, one thing I would suggest is always ask when you go to visit, is there anything that I can do for you? And here's the reason why. When I worked in home health, I would make suggestions of, hey, when your son comes over, be sure and have him change that light bulb or have him to do this or that. And then
Uh-huh.
I'd go back and I'd say, well, did your son come? Yeah, but I didn't want to bother him. I
Oh,
wanted to just
oh,
visit with them. And
oh,
so being aware of just take a quick glance around everywhere and see if there's things that's very obvious that they may need help with,
sure,
but
sure,
also ask them
sure.
and
Yep,
hopefully they will share because a
that's a good.
lot of times it is they just want to visit and they don't want to bother you.
Right, but they want to be helpful. They're there because they want to help also.
That's right.
So. Beth Bedore, thank you so much for being with us today. It is my personal pleasure to have you, my treat to have you. Congratulations on your marriage and your
Thank
first
you.
holiday as a newlywed. We're
Yes.
so excited for you. You were a beautiful bride from the pictures that we saw, and we're all wishing you the
Thank
best.
you.
Thank you for sharing us ways that we can make our holiday the best they can be and turn our home into a holiday haven. Thank you to our audience, and please be sure to come back next Monday at 3 o'clock for another episode of Always Ageless.